Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Pass Your Next OT Audit Without Taking Your Systems Offline, the first session in our two-part series dedicated to strengthening OT cybersecurity without disrupting operations. My name is Sarah Donnelly, and I'm your moderator today, and I'm joined by Austin Byers, our technical director here at TXOne. Austin leads our architecture and engineering strategy and has spent over 15 years in the industrial cybersecurity space. He's a sought-after speaker and subject matter expert on the intricacies of OT breaches, compliance, and securing your legacy systems. While we wait for another minute or two for everyone to join, just a few quick housekeeping notes. First, this session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be shared with you afterward. Also, to help minimize distractions, you'll notice your audio and video have been disabled, but we encourage you to submit questions at any time in the Q&A chat feature located at the bottom of your Zoom window. We'll answer them throughout the session as time allows, and any unanswered questions will be followed up afterward by your team. At the end of the session, we'll launch a quick poll for anyone interested in learning more or have any follow-up conversations. Also, you'll receive details about part 2 of our Element series, where we'll cover how to manage risk from removable devices brought in by vendors and contractors. So today, we're tackling a major pain point that many industrial security teams face: how to stay audit ready without taking systems offline. Austin will walk through compliance challenges and show you how TXOne's own Portable Inspector and ElementOne can help you meet audit requirements without operational disruption. And with that, let's get started. Austin, over to you.
Thank you, Sarah, for the wonderful introduction. Like Sarah said, I'll be introducing a tool that solves one of the biggest pain points in industrial cybersecurity, how to stay audit ready without disrupting operations. Let me move over to the first slide, and that solution is TXOne Network's Portable Inspector. Portable Inspector is a plug-and-play USB-based cybersecurity tool purpose-built for OT environments. It's aimed specifically at industrial assets like SCADA, HMIs, engineering workstations, as well as air-gapped or highly regulated systems. The key point being that it lets you scan systems for vulnerabilities, malware, and gather asset inventory without installing any software or agents on the target system. That can be crucial in OT, where changing device configuration or installing agents may violate safety, reliability, or regulatory requirements. This means you can inspect, verify, and document the security of your OT assets without taking any systems offline. It supports both Windows and Linux, as well as the legacy and modern operating systems of both Windows and Linux. I'm going to cover a few use cases for Portable Inspector. The primary one today is obviously the main one, solving OT audit and compliance challenges. Then we'll demo both PI, I'm going to call it PI, which is Portable Inspector, and ElementOne, which is the centralized management console. And then after that, we'll answer any questions that you may have. Feel free to put those in the Q&A section, and like Sarah said, we'll get to those at the end. So the very first use case that we have is basically what Portable Inspector was designed for, right? So it's AV on a stick. That was the original intent of PI, to be able to run around and scan certain machines, whether they're on the network or within an air-gapped environment. If you do find anything to be infected, you can clean it, you can quarantine it, and you can schedule these around regular maintenance schedules, or you could do put it in your pocket. It could be like a help desk type tool. But the main thing here is that it'll scan the machine. If it finds anything to be malicious, it can remove it and help clean it. And you can run around and scan, either systems that you own or don't own. It could be vendor equipment. It could be stuff that already has AV already onto it. Maybe you want a second look, but its core use case is AV on a stick. The second use case is scanning incoming devices. Insider threats often walk right through the front door, literally, whether it's a contractor laptop or a vendor supplied machine or a PLC. And those unscanned devices pose real threats or real risks. And with Portable Inspector, you can scan those devices before they touch your network, or before those independent machines touch your connect directly to them. Hopefully, we'll detect the malware that may be sitting on there, detect any sort of policy violations or misconfigurations and prevent those threats from entering your environment in the first place. This is a very important use case. It's a big step in the right direction for a security posture, especially if you don't inspect or analyze any new devices coming in. I've seen where brand new assets coming from the OEM are already pre-infected, whether it be they got hijacked in shipping or they were infected at in the manufacturing process. And so you want to scan any and all assets coming into your environment. This is a low risk adjustment, but it's a big step in the right direction for your security posture. The second one, or the third one here, is secure storage. It's another function of Portable Inspector. I use it to replace those rogue USB devices that you may have. And then also, if you think about the rogue USB devices that you have in your environment, you have no control over them. You have no visibility as to what they're doing in your environment, what assets they're touching, what files are moving around your environment. So we use Portable Inspector to actually replace that. So this has 64 gigs of onboard storage. So any file that you put onto PI or any directory that you put onto PI, it'll scan it. If it finds anything to be malicious or it finds a file to be malicious, it'll block just that file and then alert you to it. It'll actually block the file transfer. And then it'll also give you information about where these files are going to, what users were logged in at the time, what files were pulled, what files were put where. So you can start tracking how data is moving around your environment rather than having no visibility to just those rogue USB devices that might be roaming around your environment. The other one here is pre-shipment inspection. It's basically scan an asset as it leaves your environment. And then you can also include a malware-free report for the next user. Obviously, this can solve some this can be done for liability reasons. It can protect yourselves from the finger pointing later on to say, hey, it was clean when it left my facility, and here's the report to prove it. And the reason why I merged these two is because we've had actually a few customers that will include a PI stick or portable inspector stick in the shipment of those expensive machinery. So that way the new user can continue to scan their machine, but then also they can use it if the OEM has preloaded, say, the original firmware, maybe some backup configs or some files, licensing information, maybe some guides and things like that. So we'll actually include a PI stick in there. So that's why I included the secure storage and pre-shipment and inspection in there. Now, the main one that we want to cover is the title of the talk here, right? What this is about the real world challenges that most teams face when trying to secure OT environments, especially in the context of audits and compliance. These aren't abstract problems; they are things that make audits stressful and OT security feel impossible to manage. We have a few challenges here to the left. The first one being the inability to change the asset, whether it be internal company policy or an OEM/vendor mandated. Installing agent or traditional security software on ICS devices is often impossible due to those vendor restrictions. It may void OEM warranties, or like I mentioned a second ago, it could be the internal policy for the fear or the risk of downtime because you have fragile systems, so you don't want to touch them. Many systems run on those unsupported or outdated OSs that can't handle those heavy resourced modern tools. A real world example of this is in a water treatment plant we worked with. They had HMIs that were running Windows XP with custom drivers. The OEM contract explicitly prohibited installing any third-party software, including antivirus. Since everything runs natively on Portable Inspector, they were able to scan the system safely from the USB stick with no changes to the OS and no risk to operations. It gave them a workaround to have regular scanning AV without violating that contract or voiding that support contract. And then since everything runs local on the PI device, it's able to do a pre-scan first off just to identify what type of operating system that it's dealing with, whether it's Windows or Linux. And then also what actually operating system it is, because the PI is going to scan differently or call different actions if it's scanning, say, Windows XP versus Windows 11, and the same thing with Linux. It's also going to scan how many resources are available to it. So if it senses that the machine or the asset is running low on memory or it's running low on CPU, it'll actually slow its scan time down to where it's not going to affect or take the machine down. So it is a smart sensing type device where it'll first identify the asset, what type it is, how many resources are available to it, and then if plenty of resources are available, it'll make it as fast of a scan as all possible. And all that's done in the attempt of the process or all of that is in the attempt to protect the process of the asset and to ultimately keep the operation running. Now, the second one, or another challenge, is the insider threats. I mentioned that just a minute ago. I'll go a little bit more in detail here. As a lot of you probably already know, there can be a lot of people physically in and out of the production environment, whether it's they work for the company or they don't. They come in all shapes and sizes. An insider threat can be, a contractor or a vendor, and like I said, an internally employed person. They can all be well-mannered technicians or well-meaning technicians, but accidentally plugging an infected USB device or connecting an unauthorized device within the production environment and accidentally infecting things within that network. Obviously, it can be very dangerous. And like I mentioned before, PI can scan these potentially infected machines before we allow them to connect to the network or connect directly to a machine. And that scan leaves an auditable trail of who scanned what and when it was scanned. We actually had one manufacturer that started scanning every technician laptop at the point of entry with Portable Inspector before allowing them into production. And actually, within the first week, we caught a laptop with 5 pieces of malware on it, completely unintentional, but potentially devastating to them and their environment. But with PI, we were able to stop that threat at the door. So major help for the security posture there. The next one here is the inventory gaps. And what that means is many OT environments lack an accurate or up-to-date record of what systems exist and what software they run, or which services are exposed, especially in brownfield or legacy sites, even newly acquired sites. I see that a lot of times where a new company will buy a new manufacturing facility and they just need to get an understanding of what's all going on. So PI can help with that. Because each scan collects asset data, the OS version, installed software, open ports, and some other things as well. It builds a picture or a complete picture of the environment, one system at a time, rather than relying on the network side of that. Another example would be there's a food processing plant believed that they had 60 Windows-based endpoints. After using Portable Inspector for a month or a little over a month, they actually discovered 78 devices. So there's 18 other devices that they weren't actually detecting there. Some were old laptops used for line-side diagnostics, but still connected and just completely forgotten. But again, with PI, we were able to get a full inventory of the asset information, all the installed applications, what versions and firmware those were running, as well as doing vulnerability scans on those. The next thing is the compliance needs. Now, there's a bunch of different standards. The ones we have listed here for pharma and biotech, but obviously there's NIST and 62443, a bunch of these different things out there. But it requires a need to show that systems are validated, access is controlled, and no unapproved changes have occurred. Most of these standards require traceability and audit readiness. And so with PI, we're able to first off, we're not installing anything onto the machine, but we can also preserve system validation. And doing that, it also captures the detailed time-stamped scan logs and then electronic signatures and tamper-proof reporting to support those regulatory documentation that may be needed. There was a facility, I forget what, it was a regulated facility, I forget what industry, but they were preparing for a surprise audit, and using Portable Inspector, they scanned all validated production machines and generate a report showing that no unapproved software or configuration changes had occurred, and that all devices remain clean. And the auditors were actually very impressed with the speed and clarity of the evidence. And then the last one here is just easy to use in the field. And with all the devices at TXOne, we've designed them specifically for OT, but the main thing is that we don't want to get over complex to do the security needs that are directly correlated for OT. So we try to make everything as simple as possible. And because we understand that the OT teams often don't have dedicated cybersecurity staff, they don't have, the tools that they have are unusable by the technicians or the operators or the field engineers without the special training or credentials. And so we try to make it, like specifically here with Portable Inspector, is you plug it in, you run a scan, you read that result, you export the result, the report. There's no command line needed, no internet, no install. You got LED status indicators so you can detect at a glance. And then all these reports are stored locally and can be updated to the centralized console, which I'll cover here in a minute. But the main point of this is we try to keep it easy because we don't want to add another burden to the already burdened OT environments. And so to continue this on, obviously, we, for the audit ready side of this, we want to make sure that we have a centralized management program that, provides the company-wide security view. And what this means is all scans from portable inspector devices can be aggregated to a centralized console. And our centralized management console is called ElementOne. It provides one solution for all types of inspections, whether it be asset inspection, vendor laptop inspection, removable media inspection. This allows customers to save time and effort compared to managing multiple solutions. In addition, all history can be traced in a single console, and all devices like Portable Inspector and SafePort, which I haven't covered yet, can be managed in one singular place with group policies and global policies. And then Element improves the efficiency and reduce risks, ultimately helping customers increase revenue and reduce cost. Basically, imagine you have 10 plants running independently. Instead of emailing around scan reports or hoping someone saves a PDF somewhere, the centralized console gives you a real-time dashboard showing which assets have been scanned, what vulnerabilities exist, and where actions are needed, all in one place. Now, the next thing is we want to make sure that it's compliance-proof, that it's a tamper-proof, that it has tamper-proof inspections and reports, that with logs that can be signed, time-stamped, and exported, right? Helping meet the different regulations. We mentioned here the FDA 21 regulation, which governs how electronic records are handled and regulated in industries like food and pharmaceuticals. One example would be a pharmaceutical customer used Portable Inspector to validate clean room manufacturing equipment. They needed to prove during a FDA audit that the systems hadn't been tampered with and were malware free. So the scan report showed that they were time-stamped and digitally signed, satisfying those FDA electronic requirements or record requirements, and then no paperwork or system downtime was needed for that. Next one is asset visibility. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a detailed, details are captured during the scan. And so during the scan PI, it'll capture information like hardware and software inventory, what operating system version, what installed applications it has, what services, what open ports, and this builds an automatic asset inventory even within an air-gapped or legacy system. And we'll cover that here in a minute when we get to the demo. Another point is having an inventory snapshot, ongoing records, ongoing record of assets. Each scan is a snapshot in time, giving you a historical record of system status. These can be compared over time to detect drift or unauthorized changes or aging hardware. So you can say a PLC workstation in January, or you can scan a PLC in January, and then in June, you can scan it again. And if there are any new applications that have been installed or services that have changed, it would show up immediately during an audit. And this historical visibility is gold. You can prove nothing unexpected has changed on the critical system. So, and then the last point here is all of these results can be exported into CSV format, or you can do a manual for manual review, or you can integrate them into your SOC or SIM platform. Let me go ahead and actually start the demo of PI. So what we're going to do here, and this is actually a stick, I just plugged it into my machine here, and I'm going to launch it from the File Explorer here. Went away on me. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so when you first start it, it'll have a countdown of 30 seconds here. And basically what this countdown does is it just does the last pre-configured scan here to just automatically take place. I'm going to go ahead and stop that. So this is the main console here. Again, we try to keep this very simplistic. So we can lock these scan settings down if need be, and just it'll automatically start scanning to where the user can just plug it in and go. Or we can come in here and we can manually control it. So we have a couple different scan types here. First one is all local folders, which is exactly what it sounds like. It'll scan the entire machine. And then we have default folders or quick scan. I like to call this like a smart scan or intelligent scan. It's going to scan all the known areas where malware might reside, and where we think that is the most effective with the machine while being fast. So if you imagine there's a bunch of people coming in through the door, we want to scan these machines effectively in a timely manner. So that's usually what I default to do a quick scan for those people. And then we have specific folders, which is actually what I'm going to perform the scan with. And I'm just going to scan my desktop and maybe my downloads folder. I can also make it to where I can set up to scan any sort of removable media that might be plugged in, like a USB device. I can set that up over here. You can also set the lowest priority, which means that if you believe that this device is taxed for any reason, you can go past what's automatically done by PI to slow the scan time down, and you can actually control this. So it'll use the lowest priority of system resources on the device as possible, which it'll significantly extend the scan time, but it makes sure that it's not going to affect the device at all. CVE scan, we'll cover that here in a minute, but basically this just enables the ability to scan for, do that your vulnerability inspection, and I'll show what that looks like on the ElementOne side, the management console side. This is where you can do exclusions, like if you don't want any certain folders or certain files scanned, you can add them here. You can log in as the administrator or pre-log in, so you don't have to share the administrator account. You can load in the account name here and it'll obfuscate the password. So it'll automatically input that for you so the user doesn't have to do that. I'm not going to do any of these right now. Others is basically proxy setup if there was a proxy that you need to configure. So I'm going to save that. Again, we're just going to do a specific folders, just going to scan the desktop and the downloads, and we'll click scan now. So immediately I found these 3 threats over here. Now you have 3 different types of ways that it will detect malware and the way it'll act. So what we just did right now is called confirm. It's going to make the user confirm that, hey, I found something that I believe to be malicious. I need you to confirm the action to either remove it or ignore it. In this case, I'm probably going to ignore it, but the other options that we have are log only, to where it's just going to point to them. It's not actually going to quarantine them or do anything with it. And then the other one is take recommended action, which basically just is going to do what we recommend to do, and it'll just automatically remove those. But just to make you guys feel better about if it does have a false positive, I'm going to actually go ahead and apply this, and it'll remove those threats. You see that they took off those threats over here to the left. But if I do decide, oh, I want to put those back, I can go back here to this restore tab. I can select all these files, and then I can restore it back to their original location. And then the good thing too is that it does store a local copy of those files on the stick, but it is device encoded to where those files can only go back onto the device that they originally were pulled from. This is just done to verify that nobody else is going to infect their machines, and we're not going to spread the threat just by plugging this USB device into other machines. So it is firewalled off, and those files that are stored on there are device specific. So last thing is that we got the logs here. When we can look in here, we can see, okay, here's all the asset information. We see how many files we scanned. Here were the malicious files that we removed. I can actually export that. And here's actually what that report looks like. So we see the threats that were found. You'll note that this is only 5 pages. So this is a report that you'll get from the stick itself. It'll show you the malware scan. It'll show you the asset details. And then it'll also show what the installed applications on this machine. It'll give you a full inventory list at a light level, right? And this report will be in more depth when we go over to ElementOne, which we'll actually do now. Let me go over to ElementOne, and again, this is the centralized management console. Let me log in here. All right, second time's a charm. All right, so here's the management console that we have. You can see the number of assets that I've scanned. This is 465, and it's it looks like the majority of them are Windows 10, but we can see that we have XP, we have Linux, Ubuntu, some server devices in here, Windows 7, Windows 11. We can also see how many of those devices had critical vulnerabilities. And then there's a list of the major ones down here with the KBs that are referencing them. The device list here, I can go in here and I can click on say one of these down here. This is the same settings that I just showed you on the individual console, but you're just controlling them from the management console, and you can actually lock it from the management console to where the user, all they have to do is just plug it in and scan. But again, it's the same thing with all local folders, default folders, specific folders, and the different scan actions that you can do, everything that you can do on the standalone console of PI. But from here, you can set up your group policies, your global policies. You can separate it by location or by asset owner, however you want to separate that out. Here is where we have our actual scans. So I can come in here and look at, again, this is kind of the information that I showed you on the PI. It'll give you all the asset information, how many scans, how many files it scanned, and then you can actually export a result and you'll just have the threat information of that. But I can also go in here to the asset information, and I can say, let's just click on this top one here, and I can get the further information. So now I can see what critical vulnerabilities it had, and here's all the CVE information for it. The application, or if it's OS specific, will be listed there, and then all the affected versions and information that you need to know about it. Obviously, there's some high severity ones in here as well, so you can get your vulnerability assessment there. And then we have our asset details here. This is a little bit more in depth than what I just showed you before. And then we have all the installed applications, right? With the versions that they are, who the publisher was. There's some other, when it was installed. And so you can go through here, and this is every single application that was installed on that asset. And then also the update information for those applications as well. I can't export this. This is what this deal here. I mentioned earlier that previous report that I downloaded from the PI specifically was only 5 pages, but this one's 29 because it actually has the more asset details, and then it also has the vulnerability information down at the very bottom. Right, so here's all the exploits and things that you need to be aware of. So these reports can be shared out if need be. I mentioned that during the auditing process, these can be shared out with the auditors. So things like that. So I think that is pretty much it. I know we're getting low on time. Sarah, I'll hand it back over to you for the Q&A. Sarah, are you there? Oh, there you go.
Hey, yes. Also, I'm launching a quick poll as well if anyone wants to learn more information. But I think we have time for maybe one question at this point,
Okay.
Austin. But this one came in. I think you can answer this one pretty quickly. How do I know how many sticks I need for my environment?
So this is a good question. I operate on a rule of efficiency. So if you imagine I have 10 people coming in my front door and they all have assets that I need to scan, if I only have 1 stick, now I'm going to have to wait, for all 10 to be scanned. And obviously that's not very efficient. So I may want to have 5 sticks to where I can scan, half of them at a time. So I just operate on a rule of efficiency, especially on the other side, if I'm scanning my environment, if it's only me doing the scans, then I can just run around and scan certain things. But if I want to do multiple scans, I may need more. So again, I just operate on the rule of efficiency. Whatever makes sense in the time that you need to be able to get those scans done, usually will mandate how many devices you might need.
Okay, and any other questions that came through, and we will absolutely answer them following the webinar. So thank you for your patience.
Yeah, and I apologize. There's a lot of info here, and it's a very simplistic tool, luckily, so you got to see the majority of it. But if anybody wanted to go and dive deeper into it, they can definitely contact me or contact Sarah, and then we can set up a further demo or talk one-on-one with you guys. But again, I know Sarah mentioned that this was a part one, part two. This is the part one where we cover Portable Inspector and the Element centralized management console. Part two will be for SafePort, which is a USB scanner. It's a kiosk itself, so you can plug in USB devices to scan it. Has a lot of different useful use cases, and so for part two, we'll go into in depth on some customer stories and things that we've done to solve those problems for customers with that application.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Austin. Incredibly insightful. And thank you for everyone who joined us today. We hope you found value in learning about TXOne's Portable Inspector and ElementOne. And keep an eye on your inbox. We'll be sending out the link to today's recording, some helpful follow-up resources, and of course, that registration link for part two. And thank you again for being with us. We appreciate your time and look forward to connecting again soon. Have a great day.